Here. So what we need to do first is to see the prawns. When you cook them, they normally curl up because they've got tendons on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is get the prawn and just cut it slightly diagonally just to cut through those tendons, and then put it on.
That's the secret to getting it nice and straight.
Yes. And
Okay.
then just give it a bit of a press, and then it breaks those tendons, okay?
Beautiful.
And then we'll put it in the bowl and going to put a bit of fish sauce on it to season it.
Okay, great. What are your biggest challenges when you're cooking gluten-free in a commercial kitchen?
Well, obviously, generally speaking, baking or anything crumbed is tricky, but you know, I've been using a lot of tapioca flour, rice flour.
Tapioca's great.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? So all these different types of flours, and like I said, you can use them in other applications too. So it's like, in fact, last night I made a coconut sponge with tapioca flour and a little bit of desiccated coconut instead of regular flour.
And I find Asian cooking lends itself quite well to gluten-free dishes, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You've just got to make sure you get the gluten-free soy, obviously.
Yeah.
And always check the labels because sometimes there's some sneaky wheat in there.
So, Daniel, I've got all the ingredients here for our sauce. Let's just double-check everything's in there. We've added our lime, chilli, ginger, palm sugar, rice vinegar, and a little bit of fish sauce. I'm just going to whiz that up.
Okay, I'm just going to put just a little bit of fish sauce on these prawns to season them.
Okay.
All right, so you're finishing that. The prawns are marinated now, so I'll just pop those to the side. And now it's time to make the batter. So I've got here some tapioca flour and rice flour, so that helps to give it a little bit more texture. And then some water, and we just want to mix this to the consistency of like thickened cream. So we want a fairly thick batter.
So the consistency will make a difference to the final result. You need to ensure it's not too runny and not too thick.
Yeah, because this is basically going to be the glue that's going to help the rice flakes stick.
Right.
So if it's too thin, they'll just all fall off.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's too thick, it'll be kind of, too gluey. And also something to note is if you make the batter and then let it sit for a while, those flours do tend to sink to the bottom. So you need to give it a bit of a whisk before you use it again.
Okay, no problem.
So I've got our rice flour here, our tapioca and rice flour batter here, and the green rice flakes. And so one prawn at a time into the rice flour.
Dusting off any excess flour there.
Yep, and it's always good to use the wet and dry. So one hand dry, one hand wet. So pop that in there, dip it in, get it nicely coated. But don't use this hand to pull it out. Use this hand and put it into, let most of it drip off.
Yeah.
So there's a nice layer on there, and then pop it in there and cover it up with the green rice flakes and give it a bit of a press. Then we're going to put them on the tray and pop them in the fridge for that batter to set. At this point you could put them in the freezer too and freeze them and then cook them from frozen if you like.
So chilling them is going to make the end result much crunchier and crispier?
Yeah, it's just going to allow the rice flakes really to stick on there.
Okay, so let's finish the rest of these prawns and we'll get the oil ready for frying.
Perfect. So we've done all the hard parts, and now it's time for the easy part, just cooking them. So you can see this batter here is they're firmed up, and
Yeah, that feels quite stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and so obviously cooking with oil at home can be, a little bit challenging. So ideally if you've got a thermometer, that's great, but if not, you can use a wooden chopstick and just dip it in there.
Yeah.
And once you see fine bubbles coming off it quite rapidly like that, then you know that it's ready to go. And don't forget, when you put the prawns in, it's going to drop the oil temperature. So you need to, once you get it to the temperature, turn it down until you put the food in, and then once you put the food in, turn it back up again to put that heat back into the oil.
Okay, so
Okay.
really hot to start.
Yeah, so it can recover. So we'll put in about 3 at a time. So wouldn't mind picking some herbs there.
Oh, so what have we got here? Coriander.
Yep, Vietnamese mint and some Thai basil.
Beautiful. Beautiful Asian
Yeah.
herbs. They're so vibrant and fragrant.
Exactly, so let's put 4 in. Okay, so those are frying now. It doesn't take long, maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Yep.
So what we're looking for is the rice flakes to puff up and still be a nice green colour. After it's been about a minute, turn them over. You can see the amazing texture of these. They're just beautiful.
Yeah, they've really puffed up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Since you've dropped them in there. So we have a paper towel ready to drain those onto.
Yep. So you can hear that there's a more high-pitched sound coming from here.
They're starting to pop.
Yeah, so that's the sound of the essentially the juice or the water coming out of the prawns,
Right.
which means that they're almost cooked through. So,
So that's a warning that we're ready to take them out.
yep, and let them drain nicely, and then just pop them on there.
Oh, they're super crunchy.
So we'll put the second batch in now. I've just skimmed the rice flakes out of there that were floating around in there, because otherwise they'll burn in time.
Right. Okay, so whilst those are frying, why don't we clean up the bench
Perfect.
and we'll put it all together.
Alright, prawns are cooked. So grab a piece of lettuce and then just throw some herbs inside, don't be shy.
I love coriander, so I'm going to get plenty of that.
Yep. Try and get one of each. And then in you go. Throw a prawn in. And you can either wrap it up and then dip it in, or if you like, you can drizzle a bit of the dressing on top, like so. Would you like some?
Yeah, I'd love some.
Have a little bit more. So you've got that like nice crunchy rice flakes on the outside, the freshness of the dressing and the herbs. So shall we have a
Stuck
crack?
in.